Welcome back to Melbourne Strength Coaches Podcast, number one in the hearts, number one in the charts. We are here with an ad to let you guys know that we are available for coaching and currently are running an offer. You can speak to one of the coaches directly in the DMs on Instagram, or you can go through the first link in the bio. If you're feeling like you need some accountability and support, or you just want to change things up, maybe feeling a little bit burnt out with your current training program, we're here to help. You can dive in through the first link in the bio or speak to any of the coaches directly. Welcome back to Melbourne Strength Coaches Podcast, number one in the hearts, number one in the charts. We've got a special guest, my first coach, John Paul Cauchi, the man, the OG GOAT of powerlifting Australia.
I think that's a big claim, the OG GOAT, but I will take it for now.
When did you start?
Start powerlifting?
Yeah.
Like 10 years ago. Yeah, a long time ago. But it's good to be here because we've got a long relationship, a long friendship.
A long journey, the two of us. I started, I've told this story a few times, but I was personal training as a young lad, apparently the youngest industry in the world, someone said. But I was feeling a bit like, surely there's more to coaching than what I was sort of surrounded by, just being in like group fitness and all of that sort of shit. And then Woody popped up, Woodford, WSSC, Science Proven Systems. And I thought, I'm going to go there. And I knocked on the door. No one was there. And then I finally got onto Woodford and he was like, yeah. You like lifting weights? I was like, yeah. He's like, you should try John Paul. And I'm like, all right. So then I hired you and that was it. And I started powerlifting training outside of Woodford SSC with John Paul Cauchi.
6 months later, you're representing Australia at the Oceania Championships.
Absolutely.
Thanks to some amazing coaching by yours truly.
Yeah.
That was a while ago, yeah.
It was a while. How'd you end up at Woodford's?
How did I end up at Woodford's? I was powerlifting and I was going to Worlds and what ended up happening? I don't know how. Oh, I do remember now, actually. I was competing, obviously good level. I went to Worlds 2013, 2014. And 15 and 16, just FYI.
Oh, yeah.
Won 2 of them. And Tom Core out of nowhere sent me a message on Facebook and said, hey, we'd like to sponsor you or get you involved in something. And so that's how it started. So it started with a sponsorship. So Tom was working for Woody.
Wait, so Woody had sponsored a strength sport athlete?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, obviously it was one of those things where like, you know, you look back and you make lots of business mistakes. I think that was a business mistake. But when you're fumbling your way through, it seemed like a good idea at the time. I'm sure it was good for me. So he helped me out a little bit, which I mean, obviously I'm eternally grateful for. And so I was training there and doing stuff with them and just trying to kind of like work on
the bumper
that.
plates.
Yep. Scaring all the Brighton mums doing their 40 kilo squats.
Yep.
And I was just there all the time, obviously. And then, work kind of became an option or whatever, and it was just kind of a natural evolution, I suppose. I was there enough. It was what I was already kind of building a career out of, I suppose. So that's kind of how it all started.
Was that your first coaching gig?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you worked in a call center, and I remember you taught yourself how to do the Rubik's Cube.
Yeah.
You were so bored on the... And I remember you also had a lot of speeding fines at that time.
Yeah, I did, actually. At the start of this, before we started recording, Jamie said, is there anything we shouldn't talk about? And that's
that's
probably one of them, actually. Yeah, I mean, I was driving across town. It's like when you're driving that much, you just accrue a lot of...
points.
A lot of time on the road. Statistically speaking, there's more chances. So, it was a rough time.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of how it all kind of started. I was just coming to this side of town. I was obviously living in the West, coming out to Moorabbin all the time. And it was just like a natural progression. Start coaching. And yeah, I mean, I started in a pretty good spot, actually, very luckily. Like a lot of people obviously start doing the group fitness thing like you did, or like in local gyms or whatever. So to start in already a facility with a bit more of a focus on training and stuff, I was very fortunate.
Absolutely. Yeah. Those OG WSSC days, I don't think anything in Australia will ever be like it again. Like they were just unreal. That facility, how quickly it blew up, and it just it took over social media, it took over everything. It was just
it was like cool. Truly the birth of warehouse style training. I don't think warehouse style training. I mean, like I don't think WSSC was the first warehouse style training gym. Like there are places like Adonis and places like
CrossFit was also around.
CrossFit was around and stuff, but yeah, it was like the first of its kind. It's like the first of its kind, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah.
How long were you coaching there?
Maybe 3 or 4 years.
Oh wow.
Yeah, a few years actually, and then what happened? It was just mainly my passions just kind of changed. Well, not changed, but it was just like my passions evolved. Like my passions were around barbell training, and we're working with soccer players and netballers and runners and stuff like that. And that was all fun. Like it was all exciting, but there's only so many box jumps that I'm willing to coach before I get bored of it. And I'm like, well, all of a sudden, all of my, field-based athletes were doing a lot of SBD. And there's a little bit of...
I was doing Olympic lifting at one stage.
Yeah. I taught you to Olympic lift. that was the most underqualified thing I've ever tried to teach.
I remember we used to. Is it pissing down with rain? It was the Glenn Pendlay, R.I.P. One of the goats, absolute R.I.P. But his series,
his progression,
his progression series,
his 4-minute snatch progression. It's like the only thing you need to watch if you want to become an Olympic lifter. Just look up, what is it, Cal Strength. Snatch progression, you'll learn how to Olympic lift in 4 minutes.
Absolutely, and
that's what I did the morning before I had to teach how to do Olympic lifting.
Because I used to come in and be like, "Oh, let's learn some more shit." I was like, fresh.
You just wanted to learn, you just wanted to learn.
And this is one of the things, and I'll say this till the end of my career in health and fitness. You taught me the value of a coach. Cool. Without a doubt. I used to come in and you cared about what I wanted to do and like my progression, and obviously the progression into powerlifting for me was. I was interested in it at the time. Looking back at it now, I never really thoroughly loved it, but it was cool and it was exciting, and I wanted to learn more of it. But the quote unquote the soft skills of being a coach, like empathy, communication, actually caring, and all of those sort of things, which as we get older in our careers, we realize that is ultimately the success of a coach, is all of those qualities. You can teach everyone else sets and reps and fucking how to brace and shit.
Science and
It's all those other things that show the success of a coach long term, we believe. But you actually, again, coming from that group fitness, like whatever it was, just a mixed mash of whatever it was, you actually showed me what a coach could do for someone.
Thank you.
And I ultimately think you deflected my life.
Oh my God! Wow, that is such a strong compliment. I don't know what to say.
No, because before that, but it was you and Woody, because Woody obviously showed me like the path of like just fucking put your head down
make a career of this
and go,
this is a
and
real
like
thing,
and especially when I went through a couple turbulent times, he was really like a guiding figure for me.
For sure, no doubt.
But your qualities from just a coaching perspective, ultimately I was like, this is fucking mad.
That's
like
awesome.
You can have a big impact on someone.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, and it's like, it must be cool for you. So like you in your position now, like mentoring so many people, like being a leader to a community and stuff. It's like, I'm sure some of those lessons that you've learned, you kind of now apply to the people that you work with, and you realize, okay, the words I say are important, and the way I treat people is important, because maybe they're small. Like, I didn't think that when I was working with you. I didn't think, oh, if I'm really nice to Jamie, maybe one day he'll go on to start a gym with 5 staff. Like, that's not how it works.
Yeah.
But maybe that's how you think now, because maybe that little interaction you have with one of your mentor students, those words and the way that you treat them, that could be the platform for them in their career.
Yeah.
Without you even knowing.
Absolutely. No, absolute huge impact. That time was unmatched.
The holy trinity of influence: Woody, JP, and Ziz. That's
and Ziz.
That was the big three. That's what formed your career.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, Ziz is
no, that's why.
We've got to get
what
Woody.
What he's saying is you want a painting of yourself.
You want a painting.
Woody would love a painting.
Woody will send me a fucking a 6 meter tall cardboard cutout of himself. I'll get that 7 meter banner that's hanging up on his wall, and he's just
I used to think Woody was a celebrity back in the day.
He's micro celebrity. Micro influencer.
He was, because when I first started getting into all this stuff, and we were working at Sweaty, it was like Woody was the guy on socials that was in your face, talking about all this stuff. So I remember I saw him down in Brighton. I was working at the pantry, and I saw him. I was like, oh my God, there's Woodford. There's Christian Woodford. And now he's
down the road.
He's a colleague, essentially, in the industry.
He's a colleague.
Yeah, I mean, obviously,
he just pops in here and
brings a couple AFL boys in.
Makes his presence known.
That's awesome.
So you were talking there that you went to a few worlds and stuff. You were at the was that the first Raw IPF Worlds?
Yeah. So in 2012, the IPF held what they called the Classic Cup, because before 2012, if you don't know anything about powerlifting history, everything was just equipped. Like, there was only equipped. So, for example, this week starts the IPF Open Equipped Championships.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the number is that they're up to, but it would be like the 47th IPF Open Worlds.
For equipped.
And if you're following the Raw stuff, it'll be like the 9th or 10th one now. Yeah. But anyway, so in 2012, they introduced Classic, which is Raw, essentially. And they called it the Classic Cup because they didn't know if it was going to be a thing. So they just called it the Classic Cup. Let's see if we can get some people to turn up. Enough people turned up. There was enough interest. And then in 2013, they started the first World Championships first Raw World Championships.
Oh, so it was like an inaugural sort of it's technically like a test drive.
Yeah, so the 2013 was called the first World Championships, although 2012 still happened.
Yeah.
And I was at the 2013 one. So it was crazy. Yeah, it was like the first World Championships in Suzdal, Russia. 3 hours east of Moscow.
Yeah. I remember that. I remember watching it. I was on some stream.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
thought I was a cool guy going to Worlds and stuff. And
Absolutely. What were your numbers back then? And what did you weigh? You were a small boy.
I was
back
small. I was 66 class. I squatted 185. Takes a bit to remember. Benched 100 exactly. It was the first day I've ever benched 100. Was in that comp, and deadlifted 220, and I came second. And it's funny because at 505 total, I tied with the guy who came third, and I beat him on body weight. And another guy did 502 and a half, I think, or 500. But it's funny because like that 505 total, which gave me second, these days would be like 14th at the Worlds, and that'd be like the random guy from Bahrain, you know, that just made it and stuff. So
Yeah.
the quality is just so much higher now, which is
Absolutely.
awesome. Yeah, which is why I'm slowly fading into irrelevance as I get older as an athlete. Yeah.
Oh man, you squatted 265 the other week. That was pretty mad.
Yeah, it was pretty mad until I went home and I checked Instagram and then
Nah, get off Instagram. Don't on Instagram.
What happened on Instagram?
I just sees everyone else. What
so
they're
no,
lifting, like.
literally that day, I forget, somewhere in America, some obscure
18-year-old.
part of Texas. No, yeah, there is an 18-year-old, but there was a guy in the same weight class got like 327 and a half. I was like, okay, that's a good.
There is something going on over there.
Yeah.
I've said it a few times on here.
It's all the steroids in the water.
It's all the it's the chicken. It's the chicken.
It's
the steroids in the
It's the GMO chicken.
It's the Carl's Jr. burgers down south.
No, it's just they've got There was a bit more. My understanding is it's more ingrained in their culture, like SUIC and
talent
lifting
pool,
weights.
It's every gym has like every school has like a proper gym. It's everyone's lifting for football. Like there's a lot of
They
factors.
start lifting a lot younger than us, and then
Yeah, there's a lot of compounding factors as well.
they get that
Yeah.
jump start.
Well, I mean, like when you're 18, you've got to go to the NFL Combine and bench 102 for reps.
Yes,
And, you know, most 18-year-olds in Australia can't bench 102 to save their life. So,
no.
I mean, they start benching when they're 12.
Most 25-year-olds can't bench.
Well, yeah, I mean, most 25-year-old gym goers, like a general gym goer, can't bench 100 kilos. So,
Yeah,
it's just different. Just
Very
a different
true.
world out there.
Yeah.
It's just a different world out there.
So you went to Russia in 2013, and then
Came second.
yep, and then when did you?
South Africa the next year.
That's the one you won?
I won.
Yep, in the 66s.
Same thing.
What was the progression like? What were the numbers there?
593.
Ooh,
Yeah, 505 to 593.
yeah, nice.
Yeah, open world record deadlift. And then the year after that was Finland.
Yeah,
It's 615, and I won that as well. And the year after that was Texas, and I was an open. So those first 3 years I was junior, like I was a child, and then 2016 was an open, and that was my last Worlds. And I remember even when I did that one, I even kind of said to myself, I even said it probably on social media, on Instagram, whatever, was like, okay, this is my last one. I'm not going to Worlds again. I've done 4 in a row. I'm 24. I need to actually create a career and actually build something with myself.
Yeah.
And that's when I started the gym and all that.
So that was you just wanted to take less of your focus on training and more towards.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds very cliche, and I don't want to come across as a wanker, but it's like to compete at that level, you've got to train so hard, and not just hard as in the sense of like, oh, I'm sweating a lot and I'm really tired, but it's like it just takes up such a large portion of your like mental space all week, and so like what I used to dedicate 70% of my, say, like disposable energy per week on training, I now put to like 10% on that. You know what I mean? So it was like, well, I can keep doing this forever and living with my mom and not making anything of myself, or I can go, okay, I'm gonna, you know, take out a massive loan and start a gym, and admit the fact that, you know, there's still a small part of you when you're in that thinks, oh, maybe I can keep improving, maybe I can keep training, maybe I can keep this up, but like, yeah, reality hits you quick when, you know, you're working 60 hours a week and, you know, you're just doing all the stuff that you have to do, and yeah, like, you know, life just takes over.
You're not 23 anymore with no responsibility.
Not 23 anymore, exactly. And I mean, like, there are lots of people out there that are amazing athletes who are able to juggle lots of other things as well. Like, you know, I think of people like, I mean, yeah, I've just got America in my mind. I think of people like Taylor Atwood, Jennifer Thompson. Like, there's lots of people out there that have kids and that have careers, and like, you know, not everyone works in the fitness industry and stuff and is still able to create like a huge presence as an athlete. But that just wasn't me. Like, I just couldn't do it. And I was like it was not a cost. It was a trade-off I was willing to make. I was like, look, I would love to keep competing at a high level, but if that drops off, I'm willing to accept that, you know, cop that on the chin, if it means I'm able to build other things in my career and you know, with my life, I suppose. I just didn't want to be that kind of one-dimensional person.
We interrupt this program from word from our sponsors, which is a new sponsor, Three Kings Wealth Management, which is a financial company and financial advice that help people like these two lads improve their financial position long term and set themselves up for their future. They actually use the services though, so it's a proper ad. How's it all going?
That's
boys?
lads.
These two lads.
These
That's
two
some
lads.
sort of profiling. What do you think
lad.
I don't know about
Been
money?
watching Spanian.
Adslay.
You think I don't know about money? Well, you're right. That's why I hired a financial advisor. And it was the best thing I've done, that's for sure. Ryan, I think with it all, like the biggest thing that I was worried about, money, saving, whatever, is I couldn't live a life. You know what I mean? But I know if I said to Ryan tomorrow, my dream is to buy an AMG and 2 jet skis, he would lay out a plan for me to do that. Obviously, in a responsible manner, not just dropping that and dropping my other goals to maybe buy a house or develop a retirement fund or whatever, you know. So I love that, and it's been a big help, and I know I'll get that AMG one day.
So for me, I'm a bit of a stress head around money. I like to have a plan, and working with Ryan, I've been able to implement a plan to actually achieve what I want to do, which is get a Gucci tracksuit. But in all seriousness, I like to have a plan. I like to be on, just like with training, you got a plan, you got some goals. Well, actually, this is what we're doing to achieve it. And, when you deviate a little bit from the goals, you get back on plan and you're set to get there. So,
Well, he did put one more thing in for this ad read, which is that his books are actually full, so bad luck, suckers.
Yeah.
But he did say that if you listen to the podcast, they will open their books. So let him know
that you know a guy.
Yeah, let him know that you know a couple of us, us
dirty
lads.
Cypriots from the Strength Culture podcast.
And they'll open the books for you. So 3 Kings Wealth Management, the links will be in the bio. Thank you very much.
For sure.
Yeah, and then so then that was the time when you transitioned and opened the fort.
Yeah,
Which was 2017.
Yeah, because the Worlds was in June 2016.
Was that Killeen? Was that the one that Krisner went to?
Yeah, that's where he tore his quad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy. Because we had Krisner's, if you go back and listen to Anthony's episode, he spoke about his journey to that exact Worlds as well. Yeah.
So I think that was his first Worlds.
It was his first.
my
And it was
fourth.
like his 4th comp in like 6 months or something. He just got put through the ringer.
Yeah. That's why probably his quad kind of fell off.
Yeah.
But like that was in July of 2016, and then by April the year following, so less than 12 months later, the gym was open. And obviously, as you know, it's not just you just open a gym on a day. It takes a lot of preparation and stuff. So pretty much as soon as I got back, did I do the Oceania? I did the Oceanias that year, so the end of 2016. No, I didn't. 2016. I don't think I did the Oceanias that year. I don't even remember. I think I did. But anyway, the point is that, my whole life, shift.
It just changed.
You just shift. I was still training. Don't get me wrong. I was still training. I was still trying to improve, but with what limited resources I had available
absolutely.
to me at the time.
Absolutely. And what was the original plan for the Fortress?
What do you mean by plan?
Like, what did you want to create? Obviously, you've just come through like an S&C, more of an S&C route. Obviously, some influence from Woody as well. But what was your original sort of vision with the generation of the Fortress?
I think from the very beginning, it was for powerlifting. I was never going to do other stuff. I had a lot of people in my ear saying, you should make it powerlifting and CrossFit. You should make it powerlifting, weightlifting. You should do it powerlifting and strongman, powerlifting and S&C or something. It's very hard to make a living out of powerlifting. I mean, it's hard to make a living out of powerlifting nowadays, but 6 years ago it was a little bit harder again. And I was just true to my guns, and I was no, I don't want to do anything other than powerlifting because, I mean, winding back 15 minutes, it's when I was at Woody's and I quit Woody's, I said to Christian that, look, this just isn't for me. My passions lie elsewhere. Yeah. And one thing he said to me in that little meeting was he really encouraged me and was dude, I can see it in you. This was not a surprise to me that you were going to leave. Go out and be the guy. And at the time, and still to this day, maybe one of the biggest powerlifting influences in Australia is Australian strength coach, who you've had on this podcast as well. And at the time, 6 years ago, he was as big as he is now, relatively speaking. And Christian said to me, you should be that guy. You need to be the powerlifting guy. It's you can be that level if you want to be. And you should kind of make that your world. I've made S&C my world. You need to make powerlifting your world. You don't need to follow in my footsteps so directly. And that really meant a lot to me because it's at the time, powerlifting wasn't a big thing. It still isn't in many ways. And so when I started the gym, it was just I don't want to do other things. I don't want to fuck around. I've already fucked around. I already did the whole battle ropes and sled pushes and box jumps and running mechanics. I don't want to do that stuff. There's a reason why I left that. If I was going to do that, I would have just stayed at Woody's. Yeah. The reason I'm doing it on my own is because I want to do powerlifting. So the whole vision was just, it was always powerlifting, but it's changed. Kind of anyone who's gone through their career. Your vision and what you want to bring to people changes as you mature, as you learn, as you meet more people, as you have other influences. I mean, early on, when I was, especially during that period, say 2015, 16, when I was going to Worlds, 2015, I coached Brett Gibbs to the World Championships where he came second. and I coached numerous other like medalists at Worlds and all this kind of stuff. And like, I saw that as the pinnacle. I saw that as the goal. Like my goal as a powerlifting coach was to coach world champions, to coach world records, to revolutionize the way people are training at the high level.
And get everyone doing water cuts.
And getting everyone doing water cuts and doing all the things that like are what it takes to be an elite sports person. You know, to be an elite sports person, you have to do all these things. And that's shifted a lot, you know, as I've realized, actually, my little warehouse in the western suburbs of Melbourne isn't to train. It's not going to be like, what's Louis Simmons' gym?
West Side.
So it's not going to be on the west side. It's not going to be this place of like...
It's not going to be the mecca of all the highest levels guys come here.
Yeah, it's going to... What I realized I actually wanted to do as I got older and matured was like, actually, I want to bring this sport that I love, that has done so much for me, that has shaped who I am as an adult, and like bring that to the people, bring that to the masses, bring that to everyday people who don't know how good this sport is. Because I've seen the power of this sport, as you guys have as coaches, is like... You know, especially working with people who aren't traditionally sports people, you see the power that like doing a powerlifting meet has for someone, you know, giving them a focus, giving, you know, transformative. They learn about themselves and like all these metaphors and all this kind of stuff, and realizing, fuck, you don't need to get to a world level to learn all that. You don't need to break records to get the benefits. So if I can bring those benefits to the everyday person, that's my world mission done. Yeah.
Did you realize that upon opening the gym, or was it took a few years?
It took a while to realize that, because, you know, when you're young, you're under this, again, illusion that it's like elite sports where it's at. Like you started at Carlton for a little while, and it's like you think that's the goal. You think elite sports, high performance is the goal, and for many people it is, and that's totally fine as well. But my passions, I realized, lied elsewhere. I had this really nice conversation with Billy just this week where, you know, we had this competition just 2 days ago, the trans takeover at our gym. And it was a competition for like the queer and trans community who otherwise might not be able to access traditional powerlifting competitions. And it was fucking awesome. And one of the things that Billy and I spoke about afterwards was, all we want to do in the world, I think almost all people want to do, is good. You just want to do good in the world. And it's like, I'm not a doctor. I'm not going to save people from a fire. I'm not going to do, that's not what I can do. I don't have that skill set. But what I do know is training. I do know lifting. I do know powerlifting. And I know the gym. And so if I can do good in the world through this is my vehicle. These are my tools. And if I can do good to people and help them and teach them life lessons that I've learned through lifting, then that's my contribution to society, I suppose. Yeah.
That's how you make your impact.
That's how I influence the people around me. And it's like, I don't care about, you know, so-and-so scoring 327.5 in America the day that I scored 265.
Do you care?
What I care about is like, you know, helping people realize that, oh, actually I can achieve what I thought I couldn't, or with a bit of consistency, I can actually move forward with this goal. You know, I always was doing fad diets or fad whatevers, and I realized, actually, if I just turn up 2 or 3 days a week for the next 5 years, I'm going to improve a lot.
It's actually the impact on a progressive. It doesn't even have to be powerlifting, just a progressive strength program, just physical. And like, it's all the metaphors, but it literally changes. It can change people's entire perception of their being, their life, their direction, everything. Yeah.
I remember when I was training, and I was like, you know, I'm pretty privileged. I grew up in a pretty moderate, economically moderate home, I suppose. That's not the right term, but I was very privileged in terms of a sports person. I grew up doing sports. The gym was a comfortable place, and I don't ever remember walking into a gym and thinking like, wow, this is so intimidating. I mean, you could see people in gyms and you're like, wow, that guy's a bit scary, but I never felt uncomfortable in gyms. I never felt uncomfortable in sports. From a young age, I was spewing while, running so hard because I was doing, Aussie rules as a kid and all that kind of stuff. But for a lot of people, that's not them. They don't know what it's like to push yourself, to learn, to train and stuff. So being able to like bring that to people who otherwise wouldn't have had access to that. We had people on the weekend say, Billy shared this on our Instagram story, like, this is the first sporting event I've ever participated in. And it's like, to me, it's like, well, that's fucking awesome. You're actually able to engage and learn about your body and learn about how it moves and how, all that stuff. It's fucking awesome.
It's cool.
And that's not to say that I don't want to coach people at high levels. Like, I've got a number of lifters competing at high levels, guys going to nationals, Canadian nationals next year and all this stuff. It's just that my interests are broader than just winning medals. And
it's not that sole focus on get people to win world championships. It's a variety of things you want.
Yeah, and it's like, I'm just so anti-elitist. Like, I really hate the elitist culture. Like, You know, I get inquiries still to this day.
Says the guy with a gym full of Alico.
Yeah, exactly. If it's not the best, then get out.
I remember so many. Yeah, it's got to be Alico. It's
got to be Alico.
You used to call me like, should I do it?
Yeah,
it's got to be Alico.
And the longest time, Jamie didn't want to get a combo rack. He's like, man, why do we need a combo rack, man? I'm not training powerlifters.
I remember the first time.
It was like $5.5 grand. It was such a big decision to make.
Yeah,
We're like, what do we do?
The first time JP ever came and trained out, he had to squat with one of the ironage bars, and he was like, Jamie, can you please buy one power bar? Just one power bar. And then I think we went and bought like a couple power bars.
Yeah, it reminds me actually, this is a massive aside, but did you see that Tom Bro shared his like 10-year transformation of his gym the other day?
Oh, yeah.
that was
Tom,
nuts.
he's,
Cool, hey?
man,
He's on that level.
yeah,
he's got to
absolutely.
figure it out.
Yeah, shouts out Tom Bro, 100%. But I wanted to ask this transition. So obviously, like, this is a very, not a selfish question, but this is something I've thought because, let's say 2000. When were you slamming YouTube content? Like, when did you end up on Omar Esof's channel?
So, funny aside, so we can take a few steps back here. Young Didier, 2015, 2016, slammed Omar Esof's content, every single video. And then this bearded powerlifter from Melbourne pops up and I was like,
Beard.
this guy's from Melbourne. This is fucking mad. Where's Obsidian Strength? What the fuck is all this about? This is crazy. And it was almost like pride for like Australia and Melbourne. Like, this guy's on Omar Esof. This is mad. Started following JP's content. You were the first Australian powerlifter that I was aware of. And then eventually, lanky young Jamie Smith pops up on
One of my videos.
one of JP's videos. Surprise, surprise. 99 hip lift.
99 hip lift.
The bread and butter.
Stack your rib
And then
cage.
that's how I found Wade Melbourne Strength Culture. And then within a few months, I was declined here. So that's how it all happened. So got JP to thank.
So when was that? 2015, 2016?
Maybe about then, yeah. Give or take a year or two, yeah.
Because obviously you used to punch, and you got like 20,000 subs. And I remember it was similar to when Calgary had sort of just started popping up as well. You were sort of the two channels that were like, and even Candido was probably, and Hancock. What was his name?
Yeah, Josh Hancock.
Josh Hancock
was doing stuff.
He was
yeah.
one that disappeared.
Yeah, he disappeared.
Yeah.
He fell off.
But then, and you used to punch YouTube, and
I
then
was doing it pretty consistently.
yeah,
I suppose.
absolutely, and getting heaps of subs, heaps of views. Ended up on Omar Esos, one of the biggest private channels in health and fitness, strength training, whatever you want to call it. And then obviously, like you've swung in and out of making content again. Has any of that decision to because your views of the whole thing has changed slightly, and you said like your passion is actually just helping. It's no longer I want to become this like elite level coach and do all this elite level stuff. Not that you don't want to do it, but that's not the primary focus of your whole being and your whole career development anymore. Was that part of the decision why you have pulled maybe back a little bit?
No. Really good question. There's a couple of things here. First, I think like content creation these days is very different to how it was 8 years ago, as you would know. These days, someone who has never created content, someone who's just a, quote unquote, everyday person with 140 followers on their Instagram who consumes a lot of material but has never posted anything to their Instagram. They know what content creation is. They could tell you the power of content creation. They could tell you that, okay, to build a business, you have to create content and to reach an audience and stuff. 8 years ago, creating content wasn't something you did to reach people or to whatever. It was just literally a way to help people. It was a way to say, hey, I know this thing, I'm going to teach it to you, or I'm going to make a funny video on YouTube and, someone do a prank video because it was funny. Nowadays, people do prank videos because they're like, oh, this video is going to get 8 million views and at $7 CPM, I'm going to make $43,000. But that wasn't a thing. Back then, you would make a prank video because it was genuinely funny.
Yeah.
And so that's how it started for me. It was just making videos because I thought it was useful because it's like, well, I had my head up my own ass because I was winning worlds and stuff. And I thought, okay, maybe I can actually help people make these really interesting videos. So that's kind of how it started. And then, as you know as well, the motivation it takes to keep going is just like so difficult. And like what it did for me more than anything was bring me lots of clients. Like I got a lot of like obviously lead generation, clients like that. And then slowly my book started to get full. I remember when I started the gym in 2017, I had no money. Like I straight up had zero capital. I think the day the gym opened, I would have had less than $3,000 in the bank account.
Wow.
And I had no legs to stand on. The only legs, and this is what I often say to young people wanting to start businesses, is that you need one of two things. You need cash flow to start, or you need heaps of capital. And I didn't have capital, but I had cash flow because I had 50 online clients.
Because you had that rolling already.
And I said, if nobody turns up to my gym, I can still pay the bills and I can still pay down the loans because I've got 50 online clients. And the only way that I built that was through all that YouTube content that I was creating. But then I got to a point where, well, not to a point, but then, you know, obviously my focus shifted on the brick and mortar business. It's like, well, getting more online clients isn't my goal right now. I need to get physical clients. And the way to get physical clients is work on the business and, you know, whatever, other stuff, I suppose. Yeah. So I guess like a part of it was deliberate, but also as in part of the reason that I'm no longer on YouTube as much, part of it is deliberate because my focus is elsewhere. Yeah. But part of it's like motivation, and it's just hard, man. As you know, it's hard.
Because I love it whenever you post a video, your first like 15 comments are like, "He's back."
Yeah, my once every 6 month, you know, biannual post or whatever it is.
A bit like Candido in that regard. Like everyone gets excited when you post a video after a while.
And it's fucking hard. And that's why I like those YouTubers out there that are like pumping material to this day, quote unquote.
Consistently.
Yeah. It's like so respected. Like there's this one YouTuber I follow, Tom Scott. I don't know if you follow him. He made a post recently saying he's been posting one video a week every week for 9.5 years straight. And he said, I can't do this forever. He's got like 5 million subs. He's like, I can't do this forever. I've got too much work on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep doing it, one video a week, every week until the 10-year mark, and then I'm stopping. He's retiring. He basically announced a retirement on YouTube, which doesn't happen. Like nobody announces a YouTube retirement. Like you know.
They just had to stop posting. And then
just stop posting. Yeah, they say. I remember there's one that I love. You know, is it Don Mazzetti, the guy?
He's completely changed.
He's completely changed, but like he used to post a video every week, and at the end of every video, he used to say new videos every week, and then it became like new videos sometimes. I was like, that's someone who can accept the fact that they're dropping.
How's he changed?
He's got a full blown like lifestyle brand called Shell Corp.
Yeah.
And he's like fully in the fashion world now. Not like I've just started making clothes and put a sticker on it and like it's my brand. He's
gone all in.
Yeah, he's all in on like proper fashion.
I just remember him from the bro videos.
Yeah. Oh, he's fucking hilarious.
I think one of his first videos I ever saw was like the evolution of the lifting man, and it's like how you start as a little tadpole and you become like this like Giga Chad monster type of thing, and it's like, you know, 6 months into training, you've put on a bit of muscle, this is the most confident you'll ever be.
I think my favorite quote of his is "Reps for Jesus."
Yeah, exactly
and the gunshot.
The gunshots. That's every single video. Yeah,
unreal. And then let's just continue this because obviously now 5 years with Fortress, 2017.
Yeah, 5.5.
5.5,
yeah.
And you've now transitioned out.
Yeah,
You've gone through.
Left the building.
I've left the building. It's funny because I remember actually early on, because obviously Jamie was a little bit more mature than me, and you started to pull yourself out of coaching a lot earlier than I ever did. And I remember one time we had a conversation, or maybe it was just a message exchange, something like this, and you said something like, you know, are you going to be coaching forever? You asked me that question.
Yeah.
And young, stupid, stubborn me was like, yeah, I love coaching. I'm going to coach every day till the day I die.
50, yeah.
Yeah, and then like, you know, insert SpongeBob meme here, like 7 minutes later, I was like, well, I can't do this forever. So yeah, now I'm not in the gym at all. I don't coach at all. I actually don't even work in the gym. It was so funny. The other day I was in the gym and someone wanted to buy something. And I was like, oh yeah, I'll just take the payment. And then I pulled out the FPOS, but we got a new FPOS machine. I didn't know the code to unlock it. I had to be like,
do you work here, man?
I was like, Josh, what's the code to the FPOS machine? I don't even know how to work it. Yeah. I don't know how to unlock it. So yeah, I'm not in the gym anymore. Yeah, that's been a big year. It was basically a whole year project.
Yeah, I remember we had a call. It was.
Yes.
It might have even been
Holy
between.
Shit, I forgot.
It might have even been between Christmas and New Year. It was somewhere there. I remember we were on our because we take 2 weeks off. It was in our 2 week break.
Okay.
And you were like,
yeah, I sent Jamie a message.
I'm getting the fuck out of here. How do I get out of here?
Yeah, I sent Jamie a message for those that are wondering what the story is. And I said, dude, I want to get out of the gym. I need help. I'm going to ask you. You need to help me out here if you can, if you've got the time. What things should I know or, you know, whatever it is. Give me some advice. And yeah, we
chatted about developing staff and like delegating
that.
And all that. And then because we chat a bit.
Of course.
In and out. But then like 6 months went past. I'm like, oh, I heard on the grapevine you're moving to Spain. I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
He's not fucking around.
Yeah, I'm going.
Yeah, so you've taken this year to get yourself and Billy out of the running of it all, and you're off to Spain.
Yeah, we leave in 9 days from now. So by the time this comes out, probably I might be gone, depending.
This is on Tuesday, so yeah. You'll just be farewell.
Yeah.
Farewell, so JP.
Yeah, so we'll be gone for a year. So that was like, I mean, Billy and I always wanted to live abroad. I've always wanted to live abroad. I've never been the kind of person who just wants to spend my whole life here. I've done a lot of travel and I love traveling and stuff. And like now's a good time. You know, we're engaged. You know, don't have kids, don't have those types of commitments and stuff. Like our biggest commitment's the gym. And so it's like, well, if there's ever a time in our life to do it, it's either now or in 20 years. And I don't want to wait 20 years. And so we basically spent the whole year preparing everything, from the business to our lives. We've packed up our house and sold all our stuff. Like, we're living at my mum's apartment right now. It's a 2-bedroom apartment, Billy and I. It's very crowded. And we have nothing. Like, I own nothing other than a suitcase, bunch of clothes,
and 200 grand worth of Eleiko equipment.
and a gym and 2 investment properties. But other than that, I own nothing. Fuck. Yeah. So, wow, that sounds awful.
If you want us to cut that out, we can cut that out.
No, don't cut it out, but don't cut that on its own in isolation.
All right. Yeah. Give context there.
Yeah, a bit of context. But yeah, other than that, we don't own anything. Like, I don't own a couch. I don't own a microwave. I just literally live out of a suitcase out of my mum's house, waiting for us to leave.
Yeah. And why the decision on Spain?
Well, it's so funny. I've always had a draw to Spain. I did a Euro trip in 2012, as we all do, when I was a kid, with my mates. And Spain was my favorite country. It was a country that I felt the most at home. It was a country where we went through Italy, we went through Spain, we went through Germany, a bunch of stuff. I never learned a word of German. I never learned a word of Italian. But in Spain, I picked up a few words, and I, really just enjoyed my time there. So I've always had a draw. Like, even when I was at uni, like the University of Melbourne has like a breadth model where they make you study subjects that aren't related to your degree. And one of the subjects I picked one year was Spanish because I just wanted to learn a little bit. So I've always been drawn. And then my New Year's resolution in 2020 at the start of the year was to learn Spanish. I was like, I want to learn a language. I'm just going to pick Spanish. That seemed like the most logical one. So then I spent the whole year learning that. And then, part of learning a language is you learn about the culture and, you learn about the materials and you're watching Spanish news and you're listening to Spanish podcasts and you're listening to, watching Spanish movies. And so there's this massive draw again. And then Billy and I have always talked about living abroad. We even considered moving to the Philippines for a year before lockdowns.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, before lockdowns. And then obviously that kind of got in the way. And so now we've come out of lockdowns. We've come out of all that. I've spent 2.5 years with the Spanish language. And so it just felt like a natural thing. And I said, look, I'm pretty close to really cementing this as a language that I know. It'd be awesome to spend a year there. So we just decided on that. Yeah.
Man, has Billy learnt it?
A little bit. A tiny bit, excuse me.
You're just vomiting.
Yeah, I just did. Yeah, I just did a little burp and a little, it all came out. To get the visa that we want, so the visa we're applying for is called the Youth Mobility Visa.
Yeah.
And in order to get it, it is fucked. It is so hard. There's like all these prerequisites. And so prerequisites are things like no criminal record. Okay, easy. No kids. Okay, easy. Enough money to survive in case you don't get a job. Okay, easy. You've got to be under 30. Easy for another 3 weeks.
Wow, there you go.
You've got to have 2 years of tertiary education.
Yeah.
Right, like ticked off. But again, if you don't have tertiary education, you can't get this visa.
Yeah.
And one of them is you've got to have a functional level of Spanish, which is like basically level 1 of 6 in the Spanish language. So in order to get the visa, Billy had to pass an exam to get a certificate. And so she passed like the level A1. So it's like basically a level where you can say things like,
just general stuff.
Yeah, I live with my boyfriend. We have a cat. I run a business.
Where is this?
Where is this? I would like that. I want to go here. So she can say stuff like that, like surprisingly well, actually. But yeah, not as much as me, obviously.
We're talking about polyglots.
Polyglots, yeah.
Polyglots.
Polyglots.
Yeah, I spoke about it last week on the podcast because I'm trying to touch up on my Greek.
When you're Greek, yeah.
We've
You
been
need to
saying
catch up
this
to
phase,
Juice, yeah.
Yeah, Juice is good because we're booked to go next year.
Yeah,
so I was
saw
like,
all
it
this.
gives me a good goal now to work, the next 7 months to actually try and.
It's so funny. Oh, sorry, I just interrupted you.
No, go.
We're big on interrupting, don't worry.
We love interrupting. Didier loves it.
No, what I was going to say is it's so funny because like, when I started in the whole language learning thing, it is literally so analogous to powerlifting. There are language learning YouTubers and they do podcasts
everything.
and they do the whole world exists. You literally just copy and paste and put it across and it's exactly the same thing. And there are resources and there are apps and there are influencers in the world and there are people, the big dogs and there are like, there's micro influencers and like it's all the same.
It's crazy. You can go into almost any
field.
like subject, any field, and there's a world there of, especially like YouTube's such a great place for it. But like, there's just so much. You can go as deep as you want
gaming,
into it.
fashion, whatever. It's all the same.
Guitar's the same.
Yeah, music.
There's like
for
famous
sure. Guitar
YouTube
teachers.
guitar teachers.
There's
like
the Omar subs of
Marty
Guitar
Schwartz.
World,
Yeah.
Everyone, like when I first started learning guitar, and I was talking about Marty Schwartz. Like Didier knew who he was. Another guy that trained at the gym that played guitar.
Like everyone knows him
Everyone
if you
knew
know
who
who
Marty
played
Schwartz was.
Good old Marty Schwartz.
Just this YouTuber that teaches people how to play guitar. Yeah,
Cool, big YouTuber, obviously.
everyone knows who he is. It's just every bloody.
Yeah.
Have you been dived into YouTube golf yet?
dived. I am. I'm
this close to starting a channel.
close to starting a golf brand. I've been thinking about names. I'm thinking about how I'm.
Who's the biggest golf?
Clothing.
Shout out to the biggest golf YouTuber.
Rick Shields is number one.
Oh,
He's got he's from the UK. He's got about 2.5 mil. And then there's a group of Americans that are like 22 called Good. But so Rick Shields is like done the. He's like
Omar Isuf.
Yeah, no, not down. He's still growing, but
Okay.
he's definitely had his. And then Good's trajectory is just fucking.
Who's the biggest golf influencer in Australia?
I don't know. There's a lot on TikTok. CK
Sounds like
Golf
there's a
is one.
market there for you.
Yeah.
Just
Jamie
slide
Smith,
into Jamie Smith.
There's another one called Bob Does Sports who is just it's him and two of his mates. One's really good. The other one sucks. And the three of them, he's no good either. The three of them just make the funniest fucking videos ever. It's so good. That's Bob Does Sports. But yeah, every industry is the same.
Yeah.
It's influencer market. And this is something I've said it on a podcast that I was it wasn't our podcast, it was another one that I was on, but like the whole, I honestly believe influencers and like YouTube and Instagram and TikTok and all will become bigger than celebrities.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
Honestly,
no
like
doubt.
like The Rock, who's probably like an archetype of what like a traditional celebrity would be. But then you got like a Logan Paul coming up now, who's
Probably more people know Logan Paul than
Yeah.
The Rock,
It's a
potentially.
generational thing because, like, I know myself. I consume like non-mainstream media forms way more than I do mainstream. But if you think of people like 5 years younger than us, like, do you think they're turning the TV on? Like, probably no chance. Like, it's just not their world. It's
Yeah.
not how they consume anything. So
it's crazy.
the old.
You need to
world
get
of
back on.
celebrities.
You need to get back on YouTube, man.
Well, that's the thing is like now that I'm out of the gym,
I think you need to make a Spanish one.
I've thought about that. You've told me, you've been bugging me about this forever.
Yeah, just make a Spanish video.
Yeah. I
Have you
should.
scoped out a mad gym to train in Spain?
Yeah, there's a few actually. Yeah, there's plenty actually. Well, I mean, like that's obviously going to be one of the primary ways that we make friends and connect with people and stuff. And I can just walk in and be like, guys, come on, no me conoces? You don't know who I am?
How do you say 2-time world championship in Spanish?
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah. Yeah, so I've got a few friends, Instagram friends, whatever and stuff. And there's a few good gyms. The gym culture there is really good. When I went 10 years ago, I mean, same in Australia, I suppose, it was nothing. But now there's so many good gyms and there's big culture there. I'd love to do a comp there as well.
Yeah, absolutely. What is the plan when you're over there? Obviously, you got a little bit of online work and just exploring and stuff, but are you going to be doing trips? Are you going to mainly be staying in Spain? Or
We'll mainly stay in Spain. We'll be there for a whole year. And like because it's so long, it's not like a holiday, right? It's just we're just going to live. Like we're just going to do groceries and go for a walk in the morning and do all that kind of stuff. We'll do a lot of moving around. My dream would be to be able to come back in a year from now and say, if I met someone at a bar or something and said, I'd like to go on a holiday to Spain, I could give them recommendations for any corner, wherever you're going to go, I know because I've been. So we're just going to do like long stay Airbnbs. We don't have like a 1 year rental or anything like that.
Oh, yeah, cool.
So we're going to do like our first thing, for example, is we're going to spend 6 weeks in Madrid and then we're going to go to the Canary Islands and spend 8 weeks there and then go to Barcelona and spend a month there. And then, so we're just basically going to do like a month in like a lot of the major cities. And from there, do day trips and do little bits and pieces and stuff. And yeah, so it'll be like a year of moving around and hopefully by the end of it, have a really, really strong, understanding of the whole
the whole area.
Yeah, the whole region. Yeah.
I think Spain, because obviously I was just overseas and stuff, but Spain, I learned a lot about the French Revolution, but then obviously I've been learning a little bit more about history. I started watching Graham Hancock's thing.
I watched it last night.
Yeah, mad.
Really good. You got to watch. You'd like it.
What is it?
Ancient Apocalypse on.
Do you know who Graham Hancock is?
No.
Oh, fuck.
But he was talking about the Mexico. I watched the second episode. He was talking about the Spanish sort of.
This is diving into. Now we've gone from like influences of guitar languages. Now we're going into influences in archaeology.
History and
More than
shit.
SCI, yeah?
Yeah, pre-human.
We found him through Joe Rogan, like probably 5 years ago, probably when we opened the gym.
Okay.
And yeah,
And he's
he's got a Netflix series now, and it's like finally coming out to the masses.
Yeah, it's
his
awesome.
ideas, which is good.
And so while you were there, you.
But yeah, no,
learned a lot?
I was somehow, and it's all just, and I've realized how much Spain has influenced the human sort of, especially in the last like 500-600 years, like a crazy amount. Like,
Well, yeah. If you think about all the countries that speak English, that's because obviously there's British colonization. But then you think of all the countries that speak Spanish. That's because there was a Spanish colonization. Like it's obvious when you think about it, but it's like, wait, Mexico was like colonized by the Spaniards.
Yeah.
At the same time that the United States was colonized by the British. So it's kind of like those two things happen concurrently. And the same thing with all of South America and,
Mexico.
even parts of Africa and stuff. You know, like
they've had a massive influence.
I found it interesting when I learned, because like in South America, it's obviously heavily Spanish and then heavily Portuguese too. And like, so Argentina and Brazil next to each other, when they conquered, they split the land up. So that's why Brazil is Portuguese speaking and Argentina is Spanish speaking. Is that correct?
I didn't know that. No, I don't know that.
That's what I learned, because I was like, why do some countries split? Like, how did that end up like that? And it had to do with when they conquered, they split. They like, you have this land, we have this land.
Yeah. And then obviously that influence.
But then like Mexico was they conquered the Aztec Empire.
Yeah, I don't know the
that
deeper history of Mexico, but Mexico's another fucking like
Spanish speaking.
Yeah. It's like it's the biggest Spanish speaking country in the world. Yeah. Followed closely by the United States. Would you believe?
Hey guys, I'm just jumping back in here to let you guys know that we are running a coaching offer currently. It's a pretty hefty discount. If you want to learn more, you can speak to one of the coaches directly in the DMs, or you can jump through the first link in the description box below. Absolutely. Yeah, when you go down south, so in Miami,
the migration from
Mexico,
Mexico.
half the people in Miami don't speak English. Like, honestly, you're walking around.
Everything was in Spanish and English.
Yeah. I've even noticed it in TV shows that I watch. So like, I'm watching Animal Kingdom at the moment, and it's very heavily influenced by the Mexican Spanish, and they'll be speaking Spanish in
like
some
there are more
parts.
Spanish speakers in the United States than there are in Spain. Like, it's crazy. It's
crazy.
Yeah.
It's a good language to have control over.
Yeah.
You can actually use it.
That's one of the reasons.
Do you have a Spanish client? I've seen sometimes that you.
I have for a while. Yeah, we don't work together anymore. Fran. Yeah, he's a beast actually. Yeah, he's a beast, and
you communicated completely in Spanish.
The whole service was in Spanish. We had a meeting to start. Yeah, we had a consult, and I was like, dude, you're gonna have to be patient, and I understand. I'm not gonna be offended if it's too hard and stuff. We probably worked together for about 6 months and stuff, and he had a whole bunch of injuries, and it was just easier for him to work with, obviously someone local to kind of like work through all that and stuff. Yeah. But like, I met a friend through him, and he lives in Madrid, and we'll catch up when we're there.
Yeah, mad.
Have to have a beer or something.
Yeah. The other question that we got was how you fell into chess and your love for chess as well.
What about the chess?
Because I think at one point you had won more chess money than you had won from powerlifting.
That was updated as of last week when I won best lifter at Ben's Army
at the USAPL. Yeah,
he's still playing chess.
Yeah, I still play. Yeah, I'll go tonight probably, or even tomorrow at the Melbourne Chess Club. Yeah, it's good fun. It's just like another hobby, I suppose. Again, like what I said before, I think I said the words like I just didn't want to be a one-dimensional thing.
Do you think you said this before? I can't remember if it was on air or off air, but about longevity within. Actually, it was before we turned the camera. Longevity with coaching and powerlifting. Do you think? Because I think it's quite important to have other hobbies and not just.
I think
come in hot. Powerlifting is my life. That's it. Because I think you're the first person that exposed me to this idea. They crash and burn very quickly.
Yeah, exactly.
And we've been in it long enough now, 5-6 years, to have seen it as well. The cycle of the 2 year.
It's kind of where the 2 year powerlifter. I think I remember Charlie used to say that he got that idea from you. Like if you can get past 2 years, then
you'll stick around.
But if you can't get past those first 2 years, like that's it.
Yeah, it's hard. It's like I got strong thoughts and strong opinions and all this kind of stuff, but it's like the crash and burn thing is like so common, and it's almost embarrassing that you just said, we've been around long enough, 5 or 6 years that we've seen it all.
That's
5 or 6 years. If you were 5 or 6 years,
I crashed out. I'm out.
If you were, if you were 5 or 6 years as a paramedic, you'd be like, you're still learning. If you're 5 or 6 years in any other industry, you would be a nobody. But in this industry, you can be 5 or 6 years in, and you can be like top of the food chain. You can be the veteran. And so,
it's pretty scary because I would feel like we are somewhat pushing up to that level now.
Yeah, for sure. I don't
there's all these new people coming through. And John Tran, I had this conversation with John Tran. He's like, you've seen people come through. He goes, I've seen everyone come through.
Yeah, he's been in it for 20 years.
He's been in it for a long time.
And so, like, I think, like, it's the same with anything. Like, a really good analogy or something that's analogous to it's like relationships, right? It's like if two people are in a relationship and all they do is everything together, like they don't have other friends and they don't have other hobbies and they don't have anything else. It's like those relationships often, from my experience, I don't have any data to reference, hashtag evidence-based, but I don't have anything to cite, but it's just
you can ultimately say whatever the fuck you want right now. That'll be fine.
Yeah. People will just consume it like, yes, tell me. Take it as fact. But it's like, you need to have something else, right? Because if you only have this one thing and your whole identity centers around it, I've talked a lot about identity and a lot about that kind of stuff on my channels and feeds and stuff. It's like you need to have other things. And so part of it was deliberate. Like part of it was like, okay, I need to find something else. But part of it was organic, just a curiosity. It was just an interest. I wanted to do something outside of lifting. And I had a lot of friends that were playing like futsal or pick up basketball or something. Like I'm too short for basketball. Futsal, I'm going to roll my ankle and not be good. And for powerlifting, I still wanted to train. So I needed something cerebral. I was like, okay, chess seems like a pretty good place to go. And it's like what we were just saying before about golf and language learning and guitar. It is a deep world.
Agmator's chess channel.
Agmator, man, it is a deep world. Like there is so much, there's so much content. There's so much stuff happening. There's always a lot of, it's really interesting world to actually be part of. It's actually really cool. Yeah, I love it.
I think chess as a whole is just like the history of it, how long it's been around, and like it was like a war game, and people used to like like it's just a cool.
Well, growing up, you think it's just a board game, like it's like playing like Uno, but it's not. It's like actually really, really deep. Like the World Championships, there's like I think it's like €1 million up for grabs, which like isn't a lot compared to other sports, but it's like $1 million to play a board game, man. Like that's fucking good money.
It's a lot.
It's proper.
Like the top players in the world, like Magnus Carlsen is worth like his net worth is like $100 million.
Yeah,
because he's built brands and built like a thing or whatever. But there's like a lot of money in it, man. Even like there was a period where the biggest streamer on Twitch was a chess player. Not biggest, like the biggest streamer across all video games, across all fields. So it's like, it's a big world, man. It's a really, really big world.
Yeah.
I think like chess.com is the biggest chess website in the world. It has 100 million members. 100 million, man. It's
crazy.
That economically, it's as strong as like Australia.
It's one of those things like, and they talk about these like soccer being the world's game. And you can play it with, so you could walk up to someone, not even speak the same language, and still drop the ball, and you both know exactly
what to do.
They're the goals. It's how we play. But same with sort of chess. You could just
absolutely.
move the first piece, and they know how to. Like you don't even have to speak
It's the same rules
language.
everywhere. It's unified. Yeah, it's one of those things. You see it even at like world championships or like world events and stuff. You'll have two people different parts of the world. They don't have a common language, and after the game, they kind of point at the squares and say like, "But what about this?" And they can kind of communicate through the game. Yeah,
Post match review.
We love a good post.
We love a good post match review. I do remember one story about chess. Remember our Christmas party at Republica? John Paul
JP.
John Paul Maliatsis.
The two JPs.
we played
Both
a
of
couple
you
of
had
games.
like dived into, and someone had a chessboard, and you brought out a chessboard in the middle of Republica, and we're playing chess.
Yeah.
The other JP.
Do you have one here? We should play one after.
Oh, we do actually. Someone gifted one. One of our interns gifted one. But another one is, you said you had won more money in chess. When did you win your first chess prize pool?
Oh, my first one. I don't really know. I mean, like, let's be clear. I'm not very good at chess.
Yeah,
but it's just there's more money in chess than there is in powerlifting, which says a lot about powerlifting.
Are you in tournaments on the weekend or?
You do tournaments and stuff. They do a lot of like social tournaments and stuff that aren't like, I suppose like officially rated or like sanctions.
So they're novice comps.
Yeah, basically, I win all the novice comps. I turn up and beat all the I beat all the 5-year-olds. Not the 7-year-olds, they're too good, but the 5-year-olds, they got no chance. That's actually a lie. I've lost the 5-year-olds. But there's a lot of social chess and like even like there's a lot because it's so funny because like economically speaking, powerlifting is not a very good way to make money because it's a very expensive thing to run for very little return. Like to run a comp, you need a $7,000 setup plus AV plus a warm-up room of another 20,000. It's a very expensive space. Whereas to run a chess tournament, you literally need 40 boards, 40 pieces. It'll cost you $500.
Yeah. So
So it's very actually cheap to run a competition. And so I think the tradition in like say a local event is like 90% of entry fee goes to prize money. And so there's a lot of prize money, whereas in powerlifting, it's not like that at all. Yeah.
Not since USAPL hit the shores over here.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah. So there's a bit more opportunities now in powerlifting, obviously, but economically speaking, chess is just a lot easier. But it's a fun game. It's really good. Good thing to learn, something to do, something to learn about, test yourself, challenge yourself. It's all the same shit. It's all analogous, And it's funny because having achieved good level in powerlifting, kind of like, what's the word? Reminds me that I can do it in other ways. Like there's a big language polyglot, Steve Kaufman, who I really like. He's a Canadian dude who speaks 20 languages. Oof. He's a gun. And this is a real quick aside. He's pumping out content twice a week, every week, and he's 77.
Yeah.
77. He's pumping out content twice a
Is
week.
he hitting Monday in French, Tuesday in Arabic?
It's a bit everywhere. Yeah, but anyway, what I was saying is one thing he says, he goes, once you've learnt a language, the next one gets easier. Not because knowing a language helps you with the next one, but because knowing a language tells you that you can do it. You won't give up because I just got to keep going because I did it once. Why can't I do it again? And I think that's very much the case with like being a good lifter. I was like, well, if I can succeed at lifting, why can't I succeed at learning a language? Why can't I succeed at improving at chess? I know the skills, consistency, time, straining and effort.
It's also the the habits that you build. So like I thought about this like with guitar. Like now, if I was to say like try and learn keyboard, I know exactly where to go and where to start. I'm like, oh, I'll just learn the major scale, learn the notes in the major scale, learn the chords in the
you have
it's
like a template.
so what took me 6 months to learn with guitar because I was fumbling my way through will take me probably a month.
I imagine on like guitar Reddit threads or something.
Yeah.
You know, someone will say, "I've been practicing guitar for 3 months, and why can't I play yet?"
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, but how much are you actually practicing? What's your routine like? Like,
Yeah.
you know, I'm sure there are training routines or practice this 4 times a week and whatever. It's the same shit. Yeah, you just got to be consistent. But a lot of people don't realize that
It's still the training stuff.
Yeah, they go, I'm seeing my
structure, yeah.
I'm seeing my guitar teacher once a week and I haven't improved. I'm like, what are you doing the other 6 days? Like,
Yeah.
but it's like you don't know that unless you've done it another way.
Other
It's like,
ways, yeah.
Would you say that you're better at playing chess or you're better at speaking Spanish? Which one is a higher skill level?
Oh, that's a good question. Oh, I don't know actually.
What's your chess score?
My chess rating is like 1700, which is like, I don't know how to describe. Probably like a 400 dots.
Yeah.
All right, so for
380
me and
dots.
everyone else who doesn't understand, how does a chess rating work?
So basically, everyone's got a score, and when you beat someone, you take score off them, and if they beat you, they take score off you.
It's like Pokemon.
A little bit, and the score that you go up and down depends on the difference. So, like, let's say my rating is 1700, and your rating is 1000 because you're not as good. Like, the higher the rating, the better. If you beat me, you would gain a lot of rating because it's like, wow, like
cool.
There's a big discrepancy there. And if I beat you, I wouldn't gain much rating at all because I'm expected to win. I'm better. And so the point of it all,
to all the 5-year-olds and beat them, it doesn't really do much for you.
well,
Unless they're good.
but it actually is perfectly scaled because it doesn't matter who you play because your expected value should be the same. Like if I play someone who's much weaker than me, maybe I win 9 games and they win 1, but that would
balance
equal out. And like we walk away with the same score as we started.
That's cool.
And so the only way to actually gain score is to genuinely improve. Like you might go through ups and downs just statistically, but yeah, so it's basically like it's not a score of how well you play, it's a score of how well you compete. And so if everyone learnt and got better, then nobody's scores would change. You'd all be the same. So
Yeah, it's all relative.
yeah, it's a relative scale. It's kind of like a percentile. It's basically
And I think like world champions and stuff are about 2200.
like 2800.
28.
Yeah.
So it moves a bit.
Yeah, it moves a bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
And to like be grandmaster, you need like 2500, and there's all these like things. There's all these like points in between and
Yeah.
stuff.
It's I think chess is fucking mad. I know how to play like very basic stuff. I know a couple of openings and a couple of defenses and stuff, but
Yeah, it's like with anything. It's like, you know, when you started lifting, and there was probably 1 or 2 guys that you saw that you just were like, wow, this guy is fucking awesome. Like one of them for me was like seeing Franco Colombo lift. You know, like short guy, real strong. Like that resonated with me. It's like, okay, I can do this. You know, or like whoever it might be, it's like this eye-opening thing. It's like moments like that. Like there were moments when I first started playing chess that I saw people do shit that I was like, I cannot fucking believe like how good, you know. And it's like you need to get a little good to realize how good that is. You know, if you don't understand, it's all
That was me with music.
Who was it for you that you saw was like?
So there was 2 things. I saw like one of John Mayer's live performances at in LA, and then I also saw what's his name, John Butler.
Was that before you started playing at all?
I
already
just
been playing
started.
a little bit.
I
Yeah.
just started, so I
Yeah,
had more
I love
context
that.
of like how hard it was. So I saw John Butler, his 12-minute version of Ocean on an 11-string guitar. It's meant to be 12-string, but the 11th string was broken, but he still plays on it. And he grew his nails out to play this thing, and it goes for 12 minutes. And I was just like, because I was like trying to put it back into like so for example, we're all masters of the English language, and I was like, for me to sit here and speak for 12 minutes straight about something is quite difficult. So I'm like, they're essentially, for me, when they're playing music, they're speaking with their hands and notes and shit.
It's something they didn't learn when they were 2. They learned it as an adult. Or
And I was just like 12 minutes, and I was like, wait, so that was the same moment. I had that, and then the
But those are the moments that inspire you.
Yeah.
Right? Like, yeah, it's the same thing. Like, there's a really good video on going back to chess. Is like there's a video of like Magnus Carlsen playing. Magnus Carlsen, for those who don't know, is the 5-time world champion.
it's the GOAT.
He's the GOAT. He's literally the GOAT. Oh, arguably the GOAT. There's a bit of a debate. But anyway, he's for all intents and purposes
Everyone's
GOAT. There's a
GOAT.
video of him on YouTube playing 3 games simultaneously, blindfolded. And he's just calling out moves and they're calling out moves. And he's cracking jokes and it's just unbelievable. Like, there's a position in the game where he's got his blindfold on and the commentator who's calling the moves and telling the players what to do and stuff says, like, because they play with time, like you've only got so much time to play. And he says, like, you know, on board 1, you've got 5 minutes and he's got only 3 minutes. And he kind of just says, his time isn't his biggest problem. Like, he just cracks jokes like that. And like, there's another position where he says, like, oh, you know, knight F7 check, you know, it's checkmate in 2 moves. Like, he can just see it all while playing multiple games, like all in his, it's just, when you see it, you're like,
Wow.
Yeah, like if you've got a little bit of understanding and you see that, it tells you like, because you're just total Dunning-Kruger, right? Like the first 6 months of playing, 6 months of speaking Spanish, I was Dunning-Krugering this fuck out of myself. I was like, man, I've improved so much in 6 months. In 6 months, I'll be fluent.
It's fucking easy.
Yeah, like in 6 months, I'll be fucking sorted. And then you realize, oh shit, there's so much to go.
I
That's
remember,
what it was, yeah.
I remember when Charlie and I, this would have been 2016, 17, and we were like, yeah, by the end of the year, we're going to pull 300. And you were just like, no, you're not. You were literally just like, boys, you're not.
How long was it before that conversation until you deadlifted 300?
I never
Charlie?
made it.
Well, you never made it, but how long was it before Charlie got there?
It was long before COVID. It was the first time I pulled it in I pulled it in training, and the first time I pulled it in a comp was at one of your team champs. Could have been.
I reckon you had it, though.
2018
I
or
reckon your
2019.
prediction was correct, that we weren't going to make it. And then also,
2018 or 2019.
this is another funny story with,
Now pull.
I remember when Stupas first, just started popping up in our gym, Charlie brought him into like one of our lifting days or whatever. And I remember messaging you, I'm like, man, we've found this kid who's just a freak. And you're like, hey, if he sticks with it, like it was just a real like mature, like, oh, we'll see how he goes. I'm like, nah, I reckon this kid's got something, blah, blah, blah. And then I was like, oh, I'd like to bring him to your gym. And it was right when Stupas was just doing the most fucked shit.
He's
Like doing like 180 deadlifts, 10 by 10 and shit.
10 by 10, and then the last set was an AMRAP 18 or something. And I'm like, and you're like, what's he
remember
doing? I'm like, this is just how he trains. He just
Does whatever he wants.
does whatever he wants and just hammers hard effort training. And then I just remember it, and you were just like, oh, we'll see if he sticks with it.
I guess
it's that
I'm a
whole-
cynic. Yeah, I'm a bit of a cynic.
Very
But
much so.
It's funny you say that because only a few days ago I messaged Jason and I said to him, like, dude, like, big ups to you. Congrats, because you have built a career. And he's a survivor, you know, like there are 99 other people just like him that never made it. Yeah, that never made it, that fucked around in the gym, that did whatever, and they never made it. And so, you know, it's literally 2 days ago I messaged him and said, like, you know, congrats to you, you're killing it, man. It's good
Oh,
to
he's
see.
absolutely.
You also told me that I wasn't going to stick with it past 2 years as well.
Because statistically speaking, if
Well,
I
Charlie,
say it
you're
to
a
everyone,
survivor.
I'm right most of the time.
I'm a survivor.
Yeah, you're a survivor.
100%.
We're finally doing nationals.
Remember
first
right
time
at the
ever.
start, I was like, you taught me so much of what it is to be a good coach. And then literally, you're just shitting on everyone.
Oh, but I completely understand where you're at, because I think now I have that exact same mentality. I look, everyone talks the talk, and I'm just like, yeah, we'll see in 2 years' time.
Yeah, we'll see how you go. Yeah.
Time will tell. That's always what I'm thinking.
That's
Time will
always
tell.
the asterisk or the thought at the back of the head. Okay, this person could do this, could do that. If they stay in it for long enough. If they stay in it for long enough, 100% they could get there. But
And
that's
the funny
always
thing
the
is,
factor.
this is a real quick loop back to what we said before about what was my goal with the gym, was we can all agree that one of the best ways to reach high level is to stick at it for a long time. And so if you think about it, okay, what's that?
It's the only way.
Yeah, so the only way to get there is you got to stick at it for a long time. So then a fundamental question of achieving high results for clients is, how do I make this person stick at it for a long time? So maybe a good way to coach someone is to say, hey, I need you to pick up another hobby. Why? Just trust me, you need to pick up another hobby, because this is actually going to help you lifting. And you don't understand why, but it's because now you're going to hate lifting less and you're going to keep doing it for another 5 years, because you need to keep doing it for 5 years to achieve the level you
It's
want.
not the only thing in your brain. I think this is something that you've obviously shifted your message on social media recently about like the whole burnt out powerlifter, and like,
I
because
had
you're going
so many
through it.
people message me. It was like crazy. I just
So relatable.
changed
It's a very relatable
changed
story.
the message a little bit and got a few people messaging me. And it's the same reason why, like, I'm doing a triathlon, but it's more so, like you said, it's I still like training. I still like strength training. I still want to do powerlifting meets in the future 100%. But it's like for longevity purposes, it's like maybe doing a couple triathlons might be good. Learn some stuff about concurrent training.
Yeah.
Develop my skill set further as a coach. Then give myself the opportunity to transition people away and back when they need to. So it's like I'm playing the long game with that as well. It's not just
I feel like now is a great time to jump in and let you know that if you're feeling burnt out with your own training, maybe you've been punching powerlifting training for a few years and feel like you need a break, might be time to hire one of us and help you transition into some more enjoyable training, still with accountability and support, in order to find your flair and get back into training that you love. If you want to learn more, you can speak to one of the coaches directly in the DMs, or you can jump through the first link in the description box below.
will my strength dip a little bit? Probably.
Yeah,
in
for
the
sure.
immediate
But you'll
future.
hang
it's-
around though. Yeah, in the short
and then
term,
you get a
it'll
higher peak later.
Yeah,
Later,
it
yeah.
gets you another 5 years in the endeavor.
Versus someone does more specific training for 6 to 12 months. Yeah, right now they're stronger than you, but are they going to be here in another 5 years? So
Yeah.
that's what it always comes
It's
back
like
to.
I remember, for example, if I want to go into the story, I'll go really quickly.
No, we'll go into it.
Always go.
Yeah, Josh Hancock, when he was at the top of his game, he was 74 kilo champ. And
Most people wouldn't even know that name anymore.
no, they wouldn't, right? And he won a Worlds. He won a Worlds. And I remember him very casually, like he was, like he'll admit it as well now. Like, he was pretty confident, arrogant kind of guy, as we all were at that age. And I think he one time said something about like me just not being at his level. Like I'll just never get to his level. And it was true at the time. And I actually remember thinking, I'm not at your level now, but I know I'll stick it out longer than you. And funnily enough, it's like I'm out totaling what his best total ever was because he retired 5 years ago and I haven't. And so like, it's almost like the tortoise versus the hare. It's like you sprinted to 700 and you quit. But now I've like crawled my way there and I'm going to keep crawling. And I'm going to keep going. Another 10 years, I'm going to total 800 and I'll be 100 kilos further than you ever were. And it's like, that's not to shit on this individual. Like I have nothing but respect for him.
It's the metaphor of that journey.
It's just the story of that. And it's like, at the same time though, I think to be truly the best of the best, like to truly be like Taylor Atwood level, Russ Orhe level, you kind of have to be hyper specific and just survive. Like those people just don't get bored. Like you have to have this extraordinary tolerance to boredom or to staleness. You just, like, I don't think anyone would say, the best way to become the best powerlifter ever is to take 6 months off a year and do cardio. It's just that for the everyday person, that's the best way. So there are extreme examples where, another example of that would be like
specificity is necessary
for like a 5-10 year period. You just go.
Like a perfect example of that right now is like Stephen Day. Like he's fucking killing it. And he's like, from what I can tell, almost like hyper obsessed with powerlifting. And that is the reason that he is succeeding so much. And like, that is the reason why I succeeded. Because for a period I was hyper obsessive. And so, but if you can be hyper obsessive, not just for 3 years, but if you can be hyper obsessive for 10 years, you will get to levels that other people just never will. It's just that 0.1% of people can.
It's someone who
hyper obsession for so long.
The person I think of in Australia is like Matt Bartholomew. He lives and breathes it. And that's why he'll just keep chipping away, and he'll just get to wherever because he can do that. I don't think I could do that.
Yeah, and I don't think most people can. And if one of my clients was showing those type of traits, I would have that conversation and say, look, like just be mindful. Like this is not unhealthy, but it's, you are demonstrating like obsessive traits and stuff, and I just want you to be aware, like, the risks involved and all this kind of stuff. Like, I think that's part of the duty of care of a coach is to say, look, if you want to improve, you should train 6 days a week for 3 hours at a time, but you won't be able to do that for long. And
for 2 months and then
exactly. So you got to have those conversations.
We're just to go now, so this will probably be the last question. But what advice would you give? Obviously, we've touched on a lot of the similar topic here towards the back end of the potty, but what advice would you give for somebody that's maybe feeling like they've hit a wall mentally, or like the boredom side of things, but they still have goals, they still have endeavors in the sport, and they want to keep going, but some of that stuff's starting to mount on them and
go live in Spain for a year.
Semi-retire, move to Spain for a year, take up running, do some carve training. What would I say to someone who is essentially feeling that staleness? I suppose. 2 things. The first, actually, that we haven't touched on is like, it's okay to give up. Like, it is okay to like, right. No, it's okay to abandon powerlifting. Like, you're not like, I know it's kind of like a general theme of the conversation was like, well, those guys gave up. And it's like, but that's okay as well. Like, there's no shame in that. There's actually no shame in saying this isn't for me, because we've all started stuff that we gave up. Like, you started footy and then you've given that up. That doesn't make you a quitter. No. It just means you found your passions elsewhere.
Transitioned,
You've just transitioned and you move through your life through your different hobbies and through your different things. So the first thing is there's no shame in saying, I don't want to do this anymore. That doesn't make you a quitter. That doesn't make you any less of a valued person than the next. The second part of it, though, is if you truly do want to stick it out, then I think all those things that we kind of spoke about, try to diversify your skill set, learn new things, learn new training styles and modalities, maybe take a break and go do other kind of training, take up other hobbies that aren't related to lifting at all, take up knitting, or, go to join a social group, or, learn how to play chess or something, I don't know, whatever. So I think like diversifying your skill sets, and one thing that like Joey Zingini often refers to is like going robot mode. It's like sometimes you just have to go through robot mode. Like if you've been training for say 3 years plus consistently, odds are that's a really strong habit that you're not going to let go. And even if you just don't care about training, just robot mode it for a while. Just keep turning up. Even if you bring your training frequency down to 2 or 3 days a week, just keep turning and ticking the boxes. Because if you tick the boxes for 3 months, maybe in 3 months you're not going to improve, but you won't have regressed. And when the motivation does come back, you'll be in a much better position than if you just gave it up for 3 months. So I think like drop the frequency, robot mode, do other bits of training. You can spend 3 months of training not doing barbell training and still maintain a lot of muscle mass, still maintain a lot of strength, have fun, learn new things, and then when you get back to the powerlifting, that might actually serve you as well. So I think like just diversifying in general, and I think it just makes you a more interesting person. It makes you a more interesting dinner guest. I remember going to banquets after powerlifting meets, and everyone just wanted to talk about powerlifting. And of course, it's relevant. It was the weekend, it was just powerlifting. But I'm like, so what else do you do? And they're like, nothing. I'm like, bro, you need.
Is that when you're like, I'm not doing any more world championships?
Yeah, coach, other shit.
Powerlifting.
I got something to add to that. I think people will find useful. And I was listening to Alex Viada yesterday, my goat at the moment, about when he
concurrent goat.
Yeah, concurrent goat. When he first started pushing the strength work and the endurance work, and he's like, I started to break it down that 50% of the stuff on the program was probably getting 80 or 90% of the results, and he's like, that extra 50% of work you're doing is probably only giving you 10 or 20% extra. So he goes, if we actually cut 50% of the work back and we stick at it for a long time, we're probably still going to get to the same spot. So I think that is that kind of robot mode. It's like I'm peaking for nationals at the moment off 3 days a week. Stupas peaked for his last meet, emerged off 2 days a week.
Stupas peaked off his last meet at 3 sets a week.
3 sets a week. But like I'm doing 3 sessions a week at the moment, and my weights are going up. I'm getting stronger. I actually feel pretty damn good.
How long would each strength session take? Like if you do a proper strength?
So I'm training. I'm doing they're 2.5 hour sessions. I'm training. Those 3 sessions are hard sessions. I'm not taking the piss with them. But yeah, I'm just not training on the weekend because I've had shit on the weekends.
And I think that's fine.
And then it works. It's working.
Would you get better results if you train 5 days a week? Maybe. But is it worth it?
Probably. But then you got all the other costs.
Of course, that's what I mean. There's costs.
Mental health and feeling burnt out, and then the other sessions. So it's 50% of the work gets 80% of the result.
Pareto's principle.
That's it. Yeah, 80-20. Cool. We're all done. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me. That was an awesome discussion.
And thank you for pivoting my life and ultimately all the other lives that you've impacted through strength culture. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Muchas gracias.
And how do we say farewell in
just adios, I suppose.
Adios.
Adios. Yeah, that's it.
Adios, muchachos.